Hello lovely people, welcome back to the floor. Although you're seeing these the other way around, so you haven't actually seen the floor yet. I'm gonna have to do the same apology again. I am in London, as you might be able to tell from the background, and we're in some mood lighting because otherwise it's just a whole lot of no. The hotel room that I'm in is on the cozy side, shall we say. But enough of that. Hello, let's get into this video. Let's do the nervous guide for the guy who didn't like musicals. So yes, welcome back to another video on this channel. Welcome back to another guide. If you don't know what nervous guide is, oh, let me tell you. We're going to do this spiel quite quickly, hopefully. For every show that I see, I like to do two separate videos. The first one being this. This is the nervous guide. Nervous guide is basically everything you need to know about the show before you go in. Be that sensory and content warnings, information about theatre, information or a show and tell of my merch, show and tell of my seat view, running times, everything, you know. There's a lot to get through in this video. It's basically everything you need to know before you go in, to hopefully make you a little bit less nervous. Thus the nervous guide. This second video is the review. The review is always put in quotation marks or air quotes or whatever you want to call them. Inverted commas I usually go for, because at the end of the day I'm in no way professional. I just like going to see theatre, and sometimes like this I am seeing it alone and therefore have no one to bounce off and tell my thoughts, my feelings and everything in between on the show, the things I like, the things I maybe didn't, people in the cast that I love, information about the creative team. Yeah, so basically I sit and I film and I talk my thoughts, and that is the second video after this one. Woohoo! Today, like I said, we are going to do the nervous guide to Star Kids, the guy who didn't like musicals. Now you're thinking, hey, by this point you are already showing the programme. Oh, I am, but it's back here. Let's first do merch, because this was a little bit different. Basically, when I booked the tickets, it was quite the time ago, and a little bit time afterwards I was sent an email, and I assume everyone who had a ticket by that point had an email going, hey, do you want to pre-buy your merch? Here is everything we're going to have. Do you want any of it? Do you want to buy it to make sure that you have what you want during the run? I assume that means that there is like a specific amount that they've made / bought, and therefore may not have everything by the end of the run. So I mooched, and in a moment of madness I was like, yeah, I'll just buy it and pick it up, which I have to say was an excellent experience. I arrived at the theatre. The one thing to mention about the theatre for this show, I'm assuming it is for most performances during the run, but I'm guessing definitely for a weekend show, the queue to get in went from the door you go into the theatre all the way around to the back of the theatre past the stage door. I joined it just after the stage door, but people kept queuing and queuing and queuing. It was a not dead queue, we moved quite quickly, but be prepared, there is probably going to be a queue to get in, just warning you. Otherwise known as don't turn up with like 5 minutes to go, because it might be touch and go. But back to the merch, as I walked through and showed my ticket for the second time, because it got scanned before my bag was checked, and then I was greeted by another person who kind of half checked my ticket but at the same time went, hey, have you pre-bought any, have you got to pick up any merch? And I was like, yes. They were like, go to the cloakroom in the stalls down these stairs. Luckily I was also in the stalls, so I didn't have to go down and back up. Wonderful planning. On arriving at the cloakroom area, I basically had to say, I think my surname, but I just gave my full name in the end. Not that my surname is particularly widespread, if you will. I didn't know how to put that. They went through the door to the cloakroom area and came back with everything I bought. So let's get into it, because I'm not gonna lie, if I was there and looked at merch on the day, I probably wouldn't bought as much as I did, but I was half asleep when I pre-bought it, and I was just a bit, I think I just got paid as well, so I was like, I'm getting everything. I didn't. I got 3 things. So we have the souvenir brochure, which is the programme, which I think came in at £10 and is not the most thick of programmes. Lambert Jackson, I'm looking at you. But it has everything you need to know, including a word search. You don't get enough word searches in programmes nowadays. Sorry, sidetracked, because I didn't actually look at this in the theatre, because I got into the auditorium, found my seat, and it was quite squished. We'll get into that in a second. So I'm literally looking at it now. So the programme was £10. I also bought the this is the part after the programme. I bought the tote bag, which I kind of don't want to open up, but I'm going to. The tote bag has The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals on the back / the front, depending on which way you do it. And it says the Apollo, May 2026. And on the other side, I'm fighting with batteries, so I'm probably different angle slightly to the last one. But back to the tote. Like I said, it has it has The Guy Who Doesn't Like Musicals on the one side, and on the other side it is a receipt from Beanies, which has a little few nods, including like cashier, Emma P. What do you want, Paul? Black coffee, no cream, no sugar, no singing. I mean, you kind of understand if you've been to see the show, if you've never seen anything to do with the Guy Who Doesn't Like Musicals. It's a bit different. So that is the tote, and then the third thing is the hoodie, which I half don't want to open because it's quite easy to take home like this. But in fact I won't, ha 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 ha, because I have a picture of it here. So it is that one there. You can also see the price, which is £35. It has The Guy Who Doesn't Like Musicals on the front, and on the back it says join us and die. I mean, it's an interesting choice for me, but I could quite easily got a lot of merch. Like I said, I had just been paid when I did the pre-order, because I wouldn't have bought that much otherwise. So that was merch. I never do merch first. I've never done it first in both videos I filmed today. The other one you'll see after this one, because I wanted this one to go up before because of the time crunch. Although the other one that needs to go up is closing where it currently is and moving somewhere else. And can you guess what else I saw today? So that is merch sorted. Let's talk about view from seat, because I kind of mentioned it already. The leg room on my seat was not the best. Let's just leave it at that. It kind of dug into my legs a little bit from the seat in front of me. Not so much that I was in pain, but it kind of was slightly uncomfortable at times. It was nice to stretch my legs in the interval. For reference, I was in row Q of the stalls and I was in seat 7. So Q7, my view looked like this. I did, however, have someone that came in after I took said picture and their head kind of protruded for first half. Second half, however, the person that I thought she'd come in with did not come back or moved. I don't know what the situation was. So she moved more, the person in front of me then moved more to my left because there was a gap and I had a little bit of a better view. I mean, not to say the person in front of me was like massive, like really tall, but they kind of were slightly taller than I was. So I could just see the top of the head occasionally. I would even say like short girl problems, but I'm not. Let's get into running time and then sensory warnings. If you want to know what I'm currently doing, I'm swiping through my phone to get to this page or this photo because it has the running time. It also has their own personal warnings / content warnings / sensory warnings. So running time for this performance lasts for 2 hours and 30 minutes, including a 20-minute interval. There was very much definitely a longer first half than there was a second half. When it was on YouTube, I'm assuming it still is on YouTube from its initial uploading, but obviously being on YouTube they take an interval out. I don't know if I'd put the interval where the interval was, but definitely first half was a lot chunkier, if you will, than the second half, or act if we want to be technical. But at no time did it feel like it was dragging. As I always feel like I mention when I say, oh, it's this long, but it's not like it was that long, if you get my drift. Then onto the content / sensory warnings. Firstly, I'm going to read what the poster says. So it reads, "The guy who didn't like musicals contains adult language, mature themes, scenes of sexual nature, flashing lights, strobe lighting, haze, gunshot sounds, loud noises, simulated violence, and blood." Now, I knew what was coming for the most part. Some things have changed over the years since they first uploaded it on YouTube. But I knew what was coming. I knew for the most part that there was going to be like blood, guts, gore, there was going to be gunshots, etc. But it's always nice to be reminded before you get to your seat of the kind of content that you're going to endure. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not a fan of a gunshot. I feel like I haven't mentioned my lists for a while, but for me, the things that I don't enjoy / dislike are guns, visible guns and gunshot noises, loud noises in various ilks, sometimes bright lights or flashing lights, and just like general violence-y, hubbubby. Yeah, if something's going on stage, my brain's going nah, behind bars. Behind bars, interesting choice. So yeah, I feel like for the majority of people in my audience and for the most of this run, if you're going to see this show, you kind of know what you're getting yourself in for. You are a fan of the show / of StarKid, but it is always helpful to get like a reminder. Going to my list, boop, I have put Act 1, 3 visible handguns shown throughout Act 1. Not one of them is fired. There is, however, gunshots in Act 1. They come at the end of Join Us and Die. One is like the end point of that song. The song ends like very suddenly and with a gunshot from a shotgun. I don't know guns. I don't want to know guns. Like, it's a long one and you kind of point it, pew, just like that. So there is one initial shot from that gun and then two more happen in the scene afterwards. The gun then stays on stage until it is taken off at the end of the scene by... Now I always get Bill and Ted mixed up, ironically, because Bill takes it off. Thank you very much. That is basically what I put for Act 1. Act 2, the visible gun comes back straight away. It's again the long one. It's brought back on by the same character that took it off at the end of Act 1. There is a few gunshots throughout the show. I've put can kind of be preempted. Just be prepared when there is a gun on the stage. During Act 2, it is mostly fired when it's been visible on the stage, with a few exceptions. None of the gunshots are particularly loud. They are a gun sound effect as opposed to coming out the actual gun itself, which I usually find is louder, but that is just a me thing. But it was always helpful, if you're like me and don't love guns or loud noises, just to mention that. The other things I put for Act 2 include the helicopter scene when the helicopter has took off. Initially it is the two characters who are in the helicopter are kind of holding on and doing this. Then there is a moment where it becomes a flashing light, like a black and a white light that flashes quite continuously. I did have to look away at one point because I could feel my eyes starting to sting and my head starting to hurt. There is also an explosion noise towards the end of the show when a grenade is thrown at something. I'm not going to say what, in case you are going into this show blind and you managed to get a ticket for it. Congratulations. But yeah, there is a moment towards the end where there's a boom, and that is accompanied by a bright light that turns into a blackout, because why not? I have put in my general notes flashing lights and gunshots throughout. The other thing that I mentioned, or I wanted to mention, is the audience themselves. Now, like I said, if you're seeing this show, the likelihood is you, one, know the show probably quite well. Two, you are a fan of most of the people in the cast because they are the original cast of The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals, and they are also the Star Kid group, who have got quite the fan base. They have done 2 concerts previous to this, both with Lambert Jackson. I went to the first one. I didn't go back to the second one, not because I didn't love them anymore, but because I couldn't deal with the noise from the audience, especially during a concert where they are allowed to join in and sing. I have to say the people in my audience were very well behaved. There was no singing during the show when the actors are on stage. There is a mention of that both on the post that I was reading from before, but also before the show starts. The lights dim and there is a, I'm assuming, pre-recorded message where amongst everything else it says, hey, if I know all the words to the songs and all the dialogue, can I join in? No, you cannot. And everyone laughed, but everyone was really well behaved. The one thing to mention though is at ends of songs and also ends of scenes where the lights kind of dim and the next scene is being prepared, there is a lot of cheering and clapping and whooping. It was initially relatively loud. It was quite loud in the bows, but at the same time, I understand that this group have been around for a very long time. They've gained quite the group, the audience, everything, and I'm not gonna tell people to be quiet because they were enjoying something that they really love. But I just did want to mention, if you're like me and have a nervous disposition sometimes, sometimes the squealing is a lot, but hopefully that helps. And that is pretty much everything for this video. I've done View from Seed, I've done merch, I have done content and sensory, I have done everything, I think, which is good because it is 20 to 11. Nice. I went to get these filmed this evening whilst they're still in fresh in my head, and also so I didn't have a gluttony of videos to film in the morning. But yeah, I'm gonna silence myself. I'm going to bid you farewell. I'm going to take all this makeup off and hop into bed, ready for something completely different tomorrow. This weekend of shows has been such a rogue one, and I was always saying to the person next to me in the theatre this evening, because she was like, "Oh, you're on your own?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Oh, so you've got someone waiting for you when you come out?" I was like, no, I'm on my own. I've come down on my own for the weekend. And they're like, "Wow, you're so brave." And I'm like, no, I love theatre, and sometimes people don't want to come and watch it with me, and I'm okay with that. I'm well prepared and know, for the most part, what to do. But it made me tickle. She was like, "Wow, you're so brave." I was like, "Thanks." And she was like, "Oh, you seeing other shows?" And I was like, "Yeah, obviously I'm seeing this because I'm sat next to you." And I saw one show this afternoon, and they're like, "Wow, that's a bit different, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, and I'm going to go and see something else tomorrow." And they're like, "Okay, that is again a very rogue choice." Like, yeah, but hey ho. I feel like I could have just told you everything that I was seeing this weekend, but I like a bit of mystery. And like I said, I think at the beginning of this video, these ones are going up before other ones, just down to time crunches. Ooh. But anyway, I'm going to silence myself for now, bid you farewell, say thank you very much for watching. I've took my rings off in the last 5 minutes whilst talking to you, so I can't do my normal thing. Jingle jingle. Now I can. All that's left to say is the usual. Let's say it together. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Bye everyone.